Emma had always believed that trust was the strongest foundation of a marriage. She and her husband, Daniel, had built a comfortable life together over 7 years. Daniel owned a growing construction company, worked long hours, and often spoke about expanding the business. Emma supported him through every challenge, believing every late-night meeting and every business trip was for their future. One Friday evening, Daniel came home unusually cheerful. "Get ready," he said with a smile. "Tomorrow you're finally meeting my biggest business partner. He's the reason our company is about to land the biggest contract of our lives." Emma was excited. Daniel had mentioned this mysterious partner many times, but had never introduced them. She carefully picked an elegant navy blue dress and spent extra time getting ready. She wanted to make a good impression on the person who had helped transform her husband's dreams into reality. The next evening they drove to a luxurious sports cars lined the driveway, and waiters welcomed guests, carrying silver trays filled with champagne. Daniel squeezed Emma's hand. "Just smile," he whispered. She nodded, though his strange tone made her slightly uneasy. Inside, everything sparkled with wealth. Crystal chandeliers reflected soft golden light, while musicians played gentle jazz. Business executives laughed together, discussing investments worth millions. Then Daniel introduced her to a tall man in his early 60s. "Emma," Daniel said, "this is Mr. Harrison." The older man smiled politely, but stared at her longer than felt comfortable. So Harrison said quietly, "This is your wife." His words sounded almost disappointing. Emma ignored the strange feeling. Dinner was served and conversations filled the enormous dining hall. Emma tried joining discussions, but every time she spoke, Harrison studied her silently. Eventually, she excused herself to find the restroom. As she walked through the quiet hallway, she realized she had taken a wrong turn. Voices drifted from a nearby office. She recognized Daniel's voice. "I brought her exactly like we agreed." Emma froze. Another voice answered. "I wasn't sure she'd come." Her heartbeat quickened. Daniel laughed softly. "She trusts me completely." Emma's stomach tightened. Then Harrison spoke the sentence that made her heart stop. "After tonight, she'll never know the company is actually in her name." Emma couldn't breathe. She stepped closer to the slightly open door. Daniel sighed. "The transfer papers only need her signature. She'll think she's signing insurance documents." Emma felt the room spinning. For years she had signed paperwork whenever Daniel asked. Tax forms, mortgage updates, insurance renewals. Had she unknowingly signed something much bigger? She quietly returned to the dining room before anyone noticed her. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to smile. She realized she needed proof. Throughout the evening, she secretly used her phone to record conversations whenever Daniel and Harrison discussed business. After the party ended, Daniel seemed unusually relaxed. "Everything went perfectly," he said while driving home. Emma simply looked out the window. "I had a headache," she whispered. The next morning, Daniel left early for another meeting. The moment he drove away, Emma opened the family safe. Inside were folders containing financial records. For the first time, she carefully read every page. Within an hour, her entire world collapsed. Several companies were indeed registered under her name. Loans worth millions listed her as the legal guarantor. Properties she'd never heard of carried her signature. One document showed that if the business failed, she, not Daniel, would be personally responsible for enormous debts. Tears filled her eyes. She wasn't a wife. She had become a legal shield. Instead of confronting Daniel immediately, Emma contacted an attorney recommended by her college friend. The lawyer carefully examined every document. "You've been manipulated," he said. "But not everything is legal. Some signatures appear suspicious." Emma handed him the recording from the party. His expression changed instantly. This recording could change everything. Over the following weeks, the lawyer quietly investigated Daniel's business network. The truth proved even darker. Daniel and Harrison had created shell companies, transferred risky investments into Emma's name, and planned to declare bankruptcy after securing one final government contract. Emma would have been left with overwhelming debt, while they disappeared overseas with hidden profits. Her lawyer contacted financial investigators. Authorities began collecting evidence. Without alerting Daniel, Emma continued acting like nothing had happened. Every breakfast, every dinner, every casual conversation became part of a dangerous performance. Daniel believed his plan remained secret. One evening, he finally placed another folder in front of her. "Sweetheart," he smiled. "Just one more insurance update." Emma looked directly into his eyes. Of course, she picked up the pen. Then she paused. I'd like my attorney to review it first. Daniel's smile disappeared instantly. Quote, ... Attorney, yes. His face turned pale. Why would you need one? Emma calmly folded the document. Because I've learned never to sign papers without understanding them. Daniel's confidence crumbled. The following morning, investigators arrived at his office with search warrants. Employees watched in disbelief as officers carried away computers, financial records, and confidential files. Harrison was questioned the same day. Within weeks, both men faced multiple charges involving fraud, identity theft, tax violations, and financial conspiracy. The recordings, forged documents, and banking records painted an undeniable picture. Emma wasn't the criminal, she was the victim. Months later, after the legal battles ended, Emma stood outside the courthouse holding the final divorce papers. Reporters asked whether she regretted trusting her husband. She smiled gently before answering, I don't regret trusting someone I loved. I regret ignoring the small warning signs because I believed love could never be used against me. Her words spread across news outlets and social media. Thousands of people shared similar stories about financial manipulation within relationships. Emma eventually began speaking at community seminars, encouraging couples to understand every document they signed and to maintain financial transparency in marriage. She rebuilt her life one careful step at a time. Looking back, she often remembered the sentence that had nearly destroyed her life. After tonight, she'll never know. The company is actually in her name. Those words had stopped her heart for a moment, but they had also awakened her courage. Sometimes the most terrifying sentence you ever hear becomes the beginning of your greatest freedom. And Emma realized that real love never depends on secrecy, deception, or blind trust. Real love protects, respects, and tells the truth, even when the truth is difficult. From that day forward, she promised herself that she would never again sign away her future without first understanding its value, and that promise became the foundation of a stronger, wiser, and happier life than she had ever imagined. 6 months after Daniel's conviction, Emma finally began to sleep through the night. The nightmares had become less frequent, but the scars remained every time she signed a document. She read every line twice. Every phone call from an unknown number made her heart race. Trust, once broken so completely, was not something that returned overnight. One morning, while organizing the last boxes from the house she had shared with Daniel, she found an old leather notebook hidden beneath the loose floorboard in the closet. At first, she assumed it was another business ledger. But when she opened it, she realized it was Daniel's personal journal. Curiosity battled caution. Finally, she turned the first page. The earliest entries spoke about his dreams of becoming successful, his fear of failure, and his determination to build a fortune. But as the pages continued, his writing became darker. One sentence caught her attention immediately. Harrison says there is another investor, someone far more powerful. I've never met him, but everyone fears him. Emma frowned. She had believed Harrison was the mastermind behind everything. Apparently, he wasn't. She continued reading. Another entry read, if anything happens to Harrison or me, the offshore accounts automatically transferred to the chairman. The chairman, no name. No address, just a title. Emma closed the notebook. Her lawyer had told her the case was finished. But now she wasn't so sure. The next day, she showed the journal to her attorney. He carefully read every page before looking at her. This changes things. What do you mean? If these entries are genuine, someone else may still be controlling the money. But Daniel never mentioned anyone. He may have been too afraid. Within days, financial investigators reopened part of the investigation. Several frozen accounts suddenly became active. Millions of dollars were quietly moved between companies across different countries. Someone was cleaning up the evidence. Emma couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious chairman. Meanwhile, life slowly moved forward. She accepted a position at a non-profit organization that helped victims of financial fraud. Her own experience made people trust her instantly. She understood their fear because she had lived it. One afternoon, an elderly woman entered the office carrying a folder. My son convinced me to sign investment papers, she whispered. Emma gently held her hand. You came to the right place. For the next hour, Emma patiently explained every document. When the woman left, she hugged Emma with tears in her eyes. You saved me for the first time in months. Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in a long while: purpose. Helping others slowly healed parts of her own broken heart. Weeks later, Emma received an anonymous envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Daniel standing beside Harrison. Between them stood a third man. His face had been scratched out with a knife. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "He knows you're looking." Emma's blood ran cold. She immediately contacted the police. Investigators analyzed the handwriting but found no match. Whoever had sent the picture wanted her frightened. Instead, it made her determined. The investigation intensified. Authorities discovered that dozens of fraudulent companies had been connected through one hidden financial network. Every path eventually disappeared behind shell corporations, registered overseas still. No one could identify the mysterious chairman. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel requested a meeting. Emma almost refused, but her lawyer suggested listening. The meeting took place inside a prison interview room. Daniel looked older. His confident appearance had disappeared. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "I'm sorry." Emma stared at him. "Sorry for what?" "For everything." She remained silent. "You loved me." He continued, "And I used that." Emma looked down. "I used to wonder every day why you changed." Daniel slowly shook his head. "I didn't change overnight. I changed little by little. Every compromise became easier than the last." "What about Harrison?" "He introduced me to people with unlimited money and the chairman." Daniel immediately became nervous. "You shouldn't ask about him. So he exists." Daniel looked toward the security cameras. "Listen carefully." His voice became barely audible. "I never knew his real name." "What did you know?" "Only that people who betrayed him disappeared." Emma felt a chill. "Can you identify him?" "No." "Have you ever seen him?" "Only once." "What happened?" "He sat in a dark room. Nobody looked directly at him." Emma almost laughed. It sounded unbelievable. Yet Daniel wasn't smiling. He spoke only one sentence. "What was it?" "Loyalty is cheaper than funerals." Emma felt the weight of those words. Daniel leaned closer. "If anyone contacts you about unfinished business, run." The guards announced the visit was over. Daniel stood before leaving. He looked back. "I truly did love you." Emma answered quietly. "Love without honesty isn't love." She walked away without looking back. 3 days later, prison officials reported that Daniel had suffered a fatal heart attack. In his cell, the news shocked everyone. He was only 42. An autopsy confirmed natural causes. But rumors spread quickly. Some investigators quietly questioned whether fear had finally caught up with him. Emma attended no funeral. She simply lit a candle at home and prayed that every victim, including herself, would eventually find peace. Months passed. One rainy evening, Emma received another envelope. This time there was no photograph, only a bank statement. An account containing $23 million had been emptied. The final transfer destination simply read, "Closed by chairman." The money had vanished forever. Authorities admitted they would probably never recover it. The network dissolved almost overnight. Companies closed, websites disappeared, phone numbers became disconnected. It was as if the organization had never existed. A year later, Emma published a book describing how financial abuse often hides behind smiles. Marriage and Trust. The book became an unexpected bestseller. People from around the world shared their own stories. Some had escaped just in time. Others hadn't been as fortunate. Emma used the royalties to establish a foundation, providing free legal advice to victims of financial exploitation. Its slogan was simple: "Trust your heart, but always read the fine print." One afternoon, after giving a speech at a financial safety conference, a young journalist approached her. "If you could ask Daniel one final question," he said, "what would it be?" Emma thought for several seconds. Then she smiled sadly. "I wouldn't ask him anything." "Why not?" "Because I finally learned that some answers don't change the past." "What would you say instead?" She looked toward the audience, where hundreds of people were learning how to protect themselves from fraud. "I would thank him." The journalist looked confused. "Thank him?" Emma nodded. "Not for the pain he caused, but because surviving it showed me a strength I never knew I had." As she walked toward the exit, she noticed a man in a black suit standing across the street. He watched her for only a moment. Then a black sedan pulled up beside him. He entered the car and it disappeared into traffic, before she could read the license plate. Later that evening, security cameras confirmed the man had never crossed the street. Investigators could not identify him. Emma never learned whether he was simply a stranger, or whether somewhere hidden behind another company. Another fortune and another false identity. The mysterious chairman was still watching. She closed her office window, turned off the lights, and locked the door. This time, however, she wasn't afraid, because she had learned that the greatest weapon against deception is not fear, it is knowledge. And no matter how powerful the people hiding in the shadows might be, the truth has a way of finding the light. The story of Daniel had ended, but Emma's mission had only just begun.